Now that we understand how beat and division work, we're going to take things down to the next level, which is subdivision. So let's go back to our rhythm tree. A whole note divides into two half notes, a half note divides into two quarter notes, and so on. So this ratio of 2 to 1, 2 to 1 between each level is the division level. Now with subdivision, we'll be looking at another level down. So if my quarter note is the beat, then my division is the eighth note. So each beat divides into 2. And then if I go one further level, each division divides into 2 subdivisions. So quarter note into 2 eighth notes, eighth note into 2 16th notes. So let's summarize it again here. If I'm saying quarter note is the beat level, eighth note is the division, and the 16th is the subdivision. So that means the 2 to 1 ratio still holds from level to level. 2 to 1, 2 16ths to 1 eighth note, 2 eighth notes to 1 quarter note. But as I skip a level from beat to subdivision, I have actually a 4 to 1 ratio. So a quarter note into 2 eighths, each eighth into 2 16ths for a total of 4 16ths for each quarter note. So just as far as the tempo goes and the speed, we talked about beat and division. Since there are 2 divisions for every beat note, they have to move twice as fast as the quarter note. So for a subdivision, in relation to the beat level, it has to move 4 times faster than the quarter note. So if the tempo of the beat were, let's say, 60 beats per minute, then the division would be 120, and the 16th, the subdivision, would have to move at 240 beats per minute, or 4 times faster than the original beat. So this is how the relationships work here. Now, how does that affect our counting? Well, let's take this and look at an actual rhythm. So let's say I'm in 4/4, and I have a quarter note, and then I do 2 eighth notes, and then I'll do 4 16ths, so I'll have 4 subdivisions, and then I'll finish off with another quarter note here to make it simple. So my beat here is 1, 2, 3, and so on. My divisions are 1 and 2 and so on. And now we have to come up with another couple nonsense syllables to keep track of the extra notes. So remember, the eighth note is 1 and, so that's this first 16th is 1, and this eighth note takes up both of these 16ths. So that means this eighth note is and here, which comes out to this third 16th. So remember, that's why the counting works this way. This eighth note is the first one, 1, so 1 and then another 16th, which brings me to the third grouping here. The third and fourth 16ths is this eighth note of and. So what we do is we need to fill in this 16th and this 16th, the second and fourth 16ths, with E, Again, these are just nonsense syllables to keep track. So my counting up here is 1, that beat is filled, that bucket filled up. I'm on to 2, division level, so I go to counting of and now here, my counting is 1 E and 2 E and so on. So here I'm at beat 3, and I have 16th subdivisions, so the next one has to be E, and then Now remember, what's happening here is, the reason why the and skips over is that these 2 16ths are into this eighth note, and these 2 16ths go into this eighth note. So here's my 3 and then I further subdivide my division, the and. 3 goes into E, and divides into and that's how I come up with that counting. Now, let's look at a few common patterns and see how that works out with different variations. So the book gives you several different patterns that occur commonly when you're dealing with the quarter note as your beat, and therefore 16ths as your subdivision. So let's try another couple patterns here. One thing I could do is have an eighth note and then 2 16ths. Okay, well then my eighth note is 1, and since it's an eighth note, my counting has to follow the 1 and 2 and pattern, so the next note has to be and. Now I'm on the 16th counting pattern. I've gone down to the subdivision level. So after the and, I have to have an Now, where's the E? So remember, the E is inside this 8th note. So again, if I think of this pattern in relation to this pattern of all the 16ths, this 8th note takes up 1E, the first 2 16ths, then I'm on and then the next 16th would be up. Let's reverse it. Let's do 2 16ths, and then an 8th. That would be, continuing in this bar here, 2, it's on the 16th pattern, so I have to go to E. This is still a 16th pattern, so my next count would be the and then this 8th note takes up the as well. Another common one would be, let's do a dotted 8th and a 16th. So this would be 3. Every dotted note equals 3 of the next smaller value. So this dotted 8th is equal to 3 16ths, which takes up the first 3 16ths here. So this is 3E and. That leaves me with the last 4th 16th is up. And then finally, one other common pattern is a syncopation one. I'll be explaining syncopations in a little bit later video. But if I have a 16th, an 8th, and a 16th, this is 4, starting off the next beat. It's a 16th, so I go to the next count, looking at a 16th note pattern, a subdivision pattern. This is E. It's an 8th note, so it's worth 2 16ths, and so it's the E and the and 16ths in the middle there. And then the last 16th is up. So those are some common counting patterns that are referred to in